Welcome to The Vault, where we reveal some of the best kept secrets for success. Our show is designed to introduce you to industry professionals in TV, movies, music, sports, and business. Now, our goal is to learn from a wealth of information and use it to realize your dreams. Today's guest is the CEO of a digital marketing agency called Phanta. This company is built on the foundation of being extraordinary and is $1 million business. Introducing Mark Drager. Hey, what's going on?
How you doing?
All right, so we are very glad to have our next guest. Welcome to The Vault. And our next guest here is Mark Drager, and he is the CEO of a digital marketing agency called Phanta. And Phanta is a company that is built on the foundation of the extraordinary. This company is $1 million company that is, we're going to learn a lot about it today. So we're going to work quick on the framing. Actually, I think it goes the other way. Check.
I like it. Build the plane while in the air.
Yeah, exactly. You know that delay of Instagram Live? It just drives me nuts. All right. So I think we got it.
Let's do it. Don't worry about the framing. Let's go.
We fixed it all in post. All right, we're good. So Mark, we're going to just jump right into it. And first and foremost, on your website, you talk about growing up in fear, and you talk about how that detachment of anger and anxiety, the sentiments that you had. Mm-hmm. I want to know how that shaped who you are today, because basically we start with the origin story. We want to know where you're coming from, so then we can kind of see your journey.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge question. How does that shape who I am today? You're gonna have to help me break that down more, man.
So on your website, you're basically talking about how you had a rough childhood, right?
Yeah.
And how that basically shaped your identity. And essentially, your one word is extraordinary. Yeah. And that's the core word that defines, your beliefs and basically how you run your company. And so I wanted to kind of see how, you got from that point to how you came up with the word, and then from there, how you were able to translate that into success. Yeah.
So growing up, I was raised in a kind of a strange household, and so my mother remarried when I was 7, and my stepfather was an alcoholic, and he lived with. He was manic, so most people know bipolar, which is manic depressive, but sometimes you can just have depression, and sometimes you can just have clinical mania. And so he would go through these bouts of that. And so as a young child, I was always in a situation where we were walking on pins and needles because we were never quite sure what kind of day we would have. And it wasn't until I was a little bit older that I realized, even though there was never really like a serious threat of physical abuse, even though I wasn't ever sexually assaulted or anything like that. It took me a long time to realize that it was like a really abusive environment to be raised in. And it was only in high school when I heard someone who had been abused talk about speaking to prisoners who had been abused and speaking about the type of childhood that they had, and the hairs on the back of my neck started to stand up, and I realized that I identified with this person who had been abused, who had been speaking to prisoners who had been abused, that was perhaps the type of environment I grew up in. And so it forced me at an early age to always be an achiever, I felt like I had to be able to contribute something, because if you were not contributing something at all moments, then you were drawing on other people, I guess. If you weren't always giving and contributing, then you weren't participating, and then you were a draw or a waste, I guess, on everyone else. And so when I was younger, I mean, that manifested itself as me being like a know-it-all. always wanting to. I remember jumping into conversations that I weren't invited into just to try and help out, to try and finish people's thoughts that they weren't asking me to finish, because I wanted to be able to just contribute, improve. Because if I wasn't, then I wasn't giving the right amount. And so, I moved out when I was 16 with the help of my mother and my older sister, and I did well in school. My grades went up when I moved out, and I did well in college. I got married to my high school sweetheart. She was 21. Thank you. She was 21 and I was 22, and we had my first daughter when we were 23.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I started my business when I was 24. So I felt, I didn't connect those two things until much, much later. And so, where this kind of flashed forward in terms of discovering kind of the need for extraordinary, I was probably 5 or 6 years into my business, and I hit the stage where I had moved myself out of billable hours. And so, again, coming back to this idea of contributing towards the business, and not wanting to be a draw or a waste, I suppose. I'm connecting those dots now. I hit this point where I'm no longer doing billable hours. So I have a producer producing, I have an editor editing, I have people taking care of the video side of the business, and I thought, what is my place in this? Yes, I'm a leader. Okay, great, and I handle business development and I handle sales. But if I'm not doing billable hours, then the rest of the company has to support my salary. And I didn't feel like we were doing great work. I didn't feel like we had structure or the team, and I didn't feel like I was doing what I needed to do. And so I was speaking to Evan Carmichael because we were partnered up that month in Mastermind. And it just had struck me that this word extraordinary, that really, if I admitted to myself, and it felt selfish and egotistical, but I just didn't want to be like other people. Like I didn't want ordinary things. And so I told him that, I wanted to be an extraordinary, have an extraordinary business and do extraordinary work and be an extraordinary father. And, I'm a Christian, so be extraordinary, a man of faith, or within my church, and so on. And so, these 5, 6 areas of my life, I wanted to be extraordinary. It wasn't enough for me to be seen as ordinary. And ultimately, that's how I kind of arrived at that, just at this moment where I wasn't sure where my place was in my business, but it was just this confession to myself, like this admitting to myself that it's okay to do so, but that I wanted to be better than other people.
Yeah, and I tap into that big time. I'm the same way, like, always trying to be the best at what we do. Specifically video, how did you choose that medium?
Mm.
You could have done anything. You could have been president of Canada, prime minister.
Prime
Instead, you
Minister.
chose video. You
Prime
wanted to hit the
Minister.
masses. How'd you come about that?
Yeah, so I was actually raised in a family of developers, so like construction development. And so my grandfather, he had a fairly successful business that he started in the early 50s with 3 of his cousins, and they were immigrants from Germany to Canada. And so I was raised kind of in this family where my uncles worked in the business, and everyone would just pick up a random piece of wood and without any tools kind of build this amazing thing. And even my mother is just very, very handy if she needed to fix something. So I wanted to become an architect, in fact, a civil engineer, and then become an architect, and that seemed like what I wanted to do. And then in high school, I don't know if I got scared or if I got lazy or whatever it was, but
it's a hard profession, architects. I mean, I couldn't do it. No thanks.
Yeah, and it was just I for fun, I made this silly video for a high school film festival that had just kind of popped up randomly. It seemed like a lot of fun. It seemed easier than going to university to become a civil engineer. And so I literally, right before applying to schools, I told my mom, and she said, okay, and I changed my mind. And when I told my grandparents, my grandmother really was upset, and she said to me, she said, well, you're young enough that when this fails, you can actually get a real job. And so I went to film school. And so ultimately I ended up in video. I went to film school kind of post film, so I never cut on a film bed, but pre HD. I mean, we shot everything on mini DV tapes and we digitized it. But when I was in high school, we still had high 8 tapes, and we would like put them into a Sony deck with a jog wheel and everything like that. So just a very kind of, you know, specific time to be getting into video. And then when I graduated from film school, I was told, and I was certain, you know, Toronto is you know, second to LA, and you know, certainly above Vancouver. Atlanta's pretty big now, but it's kind of like, you know, Hollywood North. And so I knew that when I left film school, like a job was waiting for me. I was like really certain of it. And I graduated, and no one cared.
You know what? I want you to kind of tap into that a little further. Like, can you talk about, like, nowadays people are saying school is not even necessary, like, you know, college, and really, like, there is a gap between what you learn in college versus the real world, especially in videography. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
I mean, everyone's going to have their unique perspective. So I couldn't be where I excuse me, I couldn't be where I am now without having gone. But if I were to do it, so I have 4 kids, and they're getting older, and I'm not convinced that they need to do post-secondary education. So I think that if they want to go into the type of career where it's a mandatory, then they must. I think if they're interested in academia, then it's a must. I think if they're interested in the pursuit of knowledge, then it's a must. But it's not
doctor, lawyer, you know, like those fields also.
I mean, there's plenty of, like, you know, I wanted to be a civil engineer. You can't.
Right.
I mean, if you want to be a civil engineer, then you got to do that. I mean, you know, you can maybe backdoor your way into kind of designing stuff, but it's just never going to happen otherwise. So I think, though, if you want to go into anything that is a pursuit of a trade, and I consider marketing a trade, I consider video, I consider obviously plumbing and electrical and anything else, anything that's a pursuit of doing, then I think that you only need to go to school if you require technical certification. And so I am not interested in my kids pursuing school unless if it's for the pursuit of knowledge, because that's what it's about. It's not about conforming to a certain way of thinking in my mind. It's about the pursuit of answers. And so if you're not curious for what those answers are, and you're picking an open major, I think it's a waste of time and money. Now, that is a very popular opinion right now, but you know, that's schools are struggling to keep up with how fast things change. So I think that they produce at the most a foundation, but to succeed today, you need to be obsessed. And that obsession will take you so much further, so much faster than a foundation of knowledge, this thing that will become out of date within the course of a year or two, right? Anyway.
So let's talk about then how you went from this, you know, from school and film school into monetizing your passion.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, so I bounced around a little bit, and it felt like an eternity at the time. So when I graduated in December. I interned at a local, but also a national television station. So I did teleprompting, and I started to get in there and pick up some hours. And so I did that for maybe 6 months. I camera operated for about a year. And then I went and worked and did live or did AV at hotels and stuff, because I felt like I could make some money doing that. And I found myself like a year and a half or 2 years out of school, not having actually produced anything. And I remember thinking, like, I went to school because I wanted to become an editor. I ended up really liking producing, and I didn't want to be a director, because when I went to film school, everyone wanted to be a director, and this part of me being extraordinary, I realize now. They literally went around and everyone said, I want to be a director, I want to be a director. I said, well, I don't want to be a director then, if everyone wants to be. And no one said producer, so I went, oh, I want to be a producer. And so I found myself 2 years out of school with nothing. I told my boss how unhappy I was, and we were kind of friends. And he actually went out and found me he found this other job. He created my resume for me. He submitted it for me. It was pretty amazing, actually. And
Yeah.
so, I
It's a
found
good mentor.
myself working in a
Mhm.
company that was a franchisor, that had 1,500 offices in 90 countries around the world, and it was an internet marketing franchise. So I got the job in 2005. It was an internet marketing franchise, and so right away I found myself not only producing video, producing corporate video, but I was producing all of the training for all of the onboarded franchisees. I was producing franchise development marketing, and I worked there for only a year and a half. But in that year and a half, I worked with all of the C-suite people. I had open access to the CEO of the organization. I traveled around the world. It was a small enough company that pretty much every mistake I made, I was able to hide and post.
Yeah.
And I made some like really stupid mistakes,
We
but
all do.
I was able to cover stuff, and because I was producing the content for them, I had to learn the content while producing the content, and then I would shoot the content, and then I would edit the content, and so I would go through. So I was basically very well trained in the foundations for internet marketing back in 2005, when I remember people talking about split testing as this revolutionary thing. And the fact that PPC, like Google AdWords, was now a year and a half into it.
Yeah.
Facebook wasn't a thing yet. YouTube wasn't hadn't been purchased by Google yet.
Yeah.
You know, like really early days. We couldn't. Our videos had to be compressed into 52 kilobytes per second, and they were like AVI files or Flash files, and we had to build ASPXs and all these things. So it was just really hard to communicate. But I hit a point where I thought I could just do this for other people. I could do what I'm doing right now for this company for a few other people. And so I went to the CEO and I said, I can leave right now. You don't really need me to be here. Why don't you outsource everything to me? And that way it'll bring some control over the content you're producing. I will give you a really great rate because you're going to let me leave. I'm going to take the equipment. You're going to be my first customer, and I can go and do this for some other people too. And he said yes. And so I
That's
left,
cool.
and that's what gave me the courage. And I thought, fantastic, I'm going to make so much money. And then it,
And then,
it didn't work out that way.
so lead me through then, because I mean, I feel like I've kind of lived a similar journey as you. You know, that eye-opening experience of how, like, you know, it wasn't all cracked up to what what you thought it was going to be. Um, Take me actually down to that real rock bottom where you weren't able to, you know, you
Yeah, I
weren't
mean,
sure what you were going to do next.
I've had that rock bottom probably a dozen times.
Yeah.
And I started the company in December 2006. I launched it January of 2007. So it's been 12 years. And I was foolish. I was hopeful and I was foolish. And you know, people say that entrepreneurs are risk takers, but we're really not. We just foolishly believe that we can do something. And so I mean, so the first rock bottom was like when I started, my daughter, who's 12 now, was 3 months old. My wife didn't work. She was graduating college when we got pregnant, so she didn't work, and I quit my job. So I realized afterwards I could have gone on paternity leave and I could have been paid, started the company on the side. But anyway, I quit my job. So we had zero income, and I had been earning $45,000 per year. And so I quit my job. And by April or May, I realized that we were going to go bankrupt. Like, we were going to run out of money. I borrowed $30,000 from my mom from a line of credit to start the company, and I was kind of just paying myself like $2,000 a month, just to pay rent and try to get by. And I hit the point in April. I was like, oh gosh, like we'd only earned like 14 grand in 4 months or something, and the company had, and I had an office that was $1,500 a month, and I had this equipment that I kind of traded from the company. So I had all these things to pay for. So that was the first kind of like, this isn't going to work. And I went out and kind of confessed this to a few people. So number one takeaway is don't be afraid to tell people that you are in over your head, because they will help you.
Who are those people though? Like family and
Oh
friends?
gosh,
Or...
my mom. I would call my mom a lot, but I don't remember who I told. Somehow I got connected with someone who I used to work with, who I found out had left and had become a business coach. And I don't remember how the dots got connected, but I found myself having coffee with this person that I kind of had used to work with. They had left the company too, and they were going to become a business coach, and they offered to coach me for something like really reasonable. It was like, I don't know what it was, like $600 a month, plus 10% of gross profit.
Oh, wow.
And this was, they were going to drive to me and give me 2 hours per week every week for like, later in life, I ended up hiring a business coach that cost me like $3,500 a month for
Yeah,
three hours of their time. Anyway, so that started to help me figure out that I just didn't know a lot. Like I didn't know who my target audience was. I didn't know how to actually explain what it is we did, because I was like, well, we make corporate videos. And so unless if I was talking to someone who's like, I want a corporate video, and I'm like, well, we make corporate videos, no one understood what I was talking about.
yeah.
So I couldn't explain what I did. I didn't know who I was speaking to. I didn't really understand what I had to offer. I didn't know how to price anything. And so it was like 5 or 6 months of just figuring this stuff out. And when I hired them, I think we had sold like 18 or 20 grand. And by the end of the year, so that was like in May or June, and by the end of the year, we closed the year at 100,000 in revenue, which was a big boost for the company. I earned 18 grand that year. So that's below the poverty line. So it was a tough year, but everybody's origin stories are going to be the same, right? I certainly didn't have the worst childhood by any means. There were a lot of great things too. And I certainly didn't have the worst way to start a business, even though it was really, really hard. Like everyone is going to have this. We all have our origin stories, and you got to power through, right?
So I know you talked about mentors and you had that business coach. Talk to me about how now you've kind of taken on the mantle also as being a mentor now. I know that you have your team, but you also now are in the process of having like a public facing persona where you now are going on social media and trying to help other people get to that next level. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, so ultimately, the greatest way I've been able to scale and grow my business over the years is because at the end of the day, all I want to do is try and help people solve their problems.
Mm-hmm.
And someone, my head of production maybe 8 years ago was like, Mark, you're just a problem solver. And I was like, I guess I am. And so I'd say 80% of the leads who call us, I talk them out of me trying to pitch them on anything, because I'm not interested in pitching them and I'm not a good fit for them. And so I try to direct them to the very best possible thing. And that's usually not us. All I want to do is try and help solve people's problems. So mix this in with the fact that I've been very uncomfortable with social media for a very long time.
Yeah.
I think I think a lot of people want to have people look at them and say, look at me and look at how awesome things are. And to me, because I know how messy life is and I know how messy business is, it feels very inauthentic to me to present myself as something that I'm not. And I don't want to present the bad side of me. And so, ultimately, we ran the podcast, the Not So Corporate podcast we did for a year and a half. We did 50 episodes, and it was a lot of fun, but it kind of lost steam.
That was in your car, right? That was shot in your car while you're driving?
We did some on YouTube. We did, like little Mark in your cars at YouTube and stuff. And so, I mean, I'm a starter. like I'm 100% a starter. I love ideation. I love starting things. I am not a finisher. I mean, go down to my garage, and there's a 1974 Mini that I bought in the last year of high school that's still sitting in my garage. That's still not done. That still has never been driven.
Just collecting dust, huh?
It's just sitting there, and So the shift to social media. ultimately, I want to help people. I know I do. I want to help as many people as I can. And it was mostly me being comfortable with people thinking I have an ego. That's always been the thing that's held me back. You know, it used to. I would hedge, like I'm a huge hedger at everything, and I'm trying to fight that. I'm trying to be more direct and honest with people. You got some of my feedback because I was like, dude, man, we can make this better. But that's me trying not to hedge because I would fear people would react a certain way or misunderstand my intentions, or I would hurt their feelings. And so I didn't want to do social media, and I don't like going on social media because I am worried people will misunderstand me, and I'm worried that people will think I have a huge ego. And I don't think I have a huge ego.
But there's strangers that you don't even know, right? So, I mean, like, who cares, right?
Well, I
And but are you worried about being liked, or is it about just not being perceived as an expert, or is it just also like the stage fright of talking to people, or what are the different other
no,
core components?
no,
All that?
so I was sitting on a flight with Evan on my way to Tony Robbins, and he said, "Take a selfie right now." I said, "I hate selfies." He said, "Do you take a selfie?" He starts yelling at me. So fine, I take a selfie, I post it or whatever. And so some people who check my Instagram go like, in November, before November, there was nothing. And suddenly in November, there's everything. And they're like, wow, Mark, like, you're really good at this. And it's like, I'm not worried about me being bad at this. Like, I love connecting with people. I love being able to talk with you. I like getting on stage. I like being on camera. I find this stuff fun. It's not that. It's one that'll give advice that without all the full context, and if I can't really understand the context, then I'm not going to give a great answer, and maybe you can't take action, and my mind spirals that way. Two, yeah, I mean, I used to not like negative criticism. I've gotten a lot of negative criticism recently that I just love. I love it because it's so off base that
You're getting that round skin.
oh man, it's so funny. Some of it is just like, it's so off base that all I can do is laugh at it.
What are they telling you? What are the haters telling you?
like one that sticks out. I posted this thing a long time ago, but one that really sticks out at me. I posted this thing that said like, I think it was like, if you don't care, get out of the way for those of us that do. And it was just this post because there's some projects that I just care so much about, and it's frustrating to run into people who care less, because I mean, that could be client side or it can be a third party thing.
That is my life right there. What you just
so there you go.
said.
So there you go. So I just posted this thing where I was like, listen, it's cool. If you don't want to care about it, I am totally cool with that. Just please move out of the way so people like us who do care can come in and actually make it what it needs to be. And this guy went off about, you know, how close-minded I am, how egotistical I am. He used words that I had to like Google. Like, I don't know if he was deep into a thesaurus or whatever it was, but like just really like this academic response for how self-centered and selfish, because what I care about, not everyone else needs to care about. And I was like, dude, half of what you're saying is totally right. And I agree with you. That's not the point of the post. And so I just find that stuff funny now. I just find it funny.
And as this happens more and more, you're just going to get, you know, used to just overcoming that fear of having to deal with those haters. I mean, they're just going to come from the woodwork. The higher profile you become, I think they're just going to come at you. But like you said, I mean, I know you're about to tell me what your thought is on that. Go ahead.
I don't know if I'm prepared for that, but we'll see. So far, everyone's really nice. So you know, I'm very small.
We've been talking about Evan Carmichael, and you know, I know you're really good friends with them, and I'm starting to, you know, become friends with them, and I want to hear kind of like that double-edged sword. Like, he really wants to be famous, and you know, you got to be careful what you wish for. I want to hear your thoughts on that. Like, I mean, you become an influencer, and obviously, the more people that you can reach, the broader the message can get. And but what is the flip side of that?
For me or for him?
Well,
I'm not worried about being famous yet. I'm not worried about being famous yet. That doesn't.
I guess I was talking more in general. I wasn't talking about either of you in specifics, but I was just saying, like, you know, how social media can, you know, the dark side of it too. Like, what are your thoughts on I mean, you probably
I don't know.
your goal
I
is
haven't
not.
lived that. I haven't lived that
Yeah, I was
personally
gonna say your
yet.
goal
So
is probably not to become like this giant, Tony Robbins type guy, but it's really if you just help one person, then you'd feel fulfilled, correct? I mean, that's kind of how I am too. Like, I don't need
oh
to
yeah.
be famous,
Oh
you
no,
know.
it's a game right now. Like I had a guy DM me last week, I think, with this cold request, and he's just like, "Oh, I love your stuff. I love your stuff so much. It's so amazing. Listen, here's my phone number. Call me. I need to talk to you." And I said, "Well, what's up?" And he said, and he wrote back. He's like, "Oh, thanks so much for writing back. Yeah, we need to do lunch together." And I was like, it was again, it was just like it's like a game to me. I was like, dude, like I got to get you better at this because your cold DM is terrible. So I spent like an hour. I spent like an hour going back and forth with him, first trying to get him out of like trying to have him recognize that I'm not going to go out for lunch with him because he hasn't given me a reason to. I'm not going to call him because he hasn't given me a reason to. I don't know who he is. His profile doesn't even look real. I don't know if his phone number is real. His business doesn't really exist yet. He hasn't told me why I should give him his time. And so I started breaking this all down for him. And I was just like, dude, like, okay, now let's do this the proper way. Okay. Like, and so by the end of the conversation, like I made it clear, like he still hasn't given me enough reason to, for me to give him any of his time. But I had so much fun, like hopefully trying to get him to realize, and maybe at the end of the day, he's just going to go back to cold DMing everyone, but I hope not. Like I want him to be better at it. Like I want him to be good at this. So that way the next person that he reaches out to who is much higher profile than I am or much better at that I am, or the person who's not going to take the time to respond the way that I did, at the very least, he's going to be better at it. That's what I
Yeah,
want.
he'll
Right.
at least be educated and know why people didn't reply to his DM.
Yeah.
And you and Evan have been working on this $1 million series and how to create $1 million business.
Mm.
And where do you see your mentorship growing? I know that was a really informative series. I really enjoyed it, and I told you. What can you go?
Thank you.
Where can you go from there? Yeah.
One, I mean, I've the Instagram stuff I've only been doing actively since November 11th. I'm still garbage at it. And so, staying on top of it, getting better at it, being more comfortable to, when I came back from Tony Robbins, I wrote this thing in my book and I shared it with a few members of my team. And it's just this quote that says, "Mark is the man." And it's one of those things, again, the hedging thing, right? Where I worry that people will think I have an ego, so I downplay things. I'm worried that my team will think that I'm too controlling, so I actually back off too much. I'm worried people will think that I'm trying to be the center of attention, so I hide in a corner. And so literally, like the revolutionary thing for me, the breakthroughs is just going like, hey, doing what we're doing now, 5 months ago, it's not that I wouldn't have been good at it. I just would have said no. I would have been like, "Thank you very much. I appreciate that, but no." And instead, you DM me. I was having dinner in Jamaica at the time on vacation, and I was like, "Sure, let's pick a date."
Uh-huh.
And so it's just moving to saying yes. It's doing more of the Instagram stuff to be able to connect with people and figure out that game. We're launching the YouTube channel, and we're not putting any of our content on phantamedia.com, Phantamedia's YouTube channel. We're doing it under Mark Drager, so it's like starting a fresh YouTube channel from scratch. It's just being comfortable saying, maybe I have something to share from my experience or my voice or my perspective. I still have major doubts. I watch a lot of content, and there's so many people doing amazing things, and sometimes I just think the last thing the world needs is just another person going on and on and on about stuff. And
What do
so
you feel like you offer that's different?
I think you're asking me questions that so everything is more like a flip to me, right? I don't think that I actually have that much to offer. I'm doing it because I'm taking action, not because I believe in it yet. So I'm not it's very easy. People are like, "Mark, you're so vulnerable," and it's like very easy for me to be vulnerable because I haven't hit the other side of like uber confidence yet. And
Yeah.
so I don't mind getting up and doing a dance competition. I don't mind looking foolish that way. you know, being able to connect and do this is amazing. Um, if you asked me like, hey, Mark, okay, so the plan is to get to 1 million subscribers on YouTube. It's to release this type of content. It's to write these types of books. It's to speak on these types of stages. Um, it's not that I don't think technically any of those things are possible. Of course, they're possible with dedication, with hard work, with the right content, with being reactive, with saying unique things, with capturing an audience. All of those things can happen if you put the steps in place.
Yeah.
It's just though, am I the person who's capable of doing this? I don't know, but I can't sit around and wait. Like, I can take action, and then I can take things as they come. So, right, you know, when I started, I had,
Discovery.
what's that?
It's discovery. You're basically in the discovery phase now, trying to figure out some of yourself in some ways, I guess. I mean, like,
Yeah.
and this is,
We'll figure it
I love
out.
watching this journey myself. Like, I mean, it's kind of nice to not have the polished. I mean, I try to be polished, you know. I always make the framing and the editing has to be tight. But
I'm in my daughter's bedroom right now because it's the only quiet place in the house. And right now my phone is sitting on a laundry basket on a princess table, just because I was like, oh, am I going to sit here and hold this the whole time? No, I got to give this guy some nice static framing.
Meanwhile, my team, they drove halfway across the city to bring light to light this set for you.
Thank you.
All of our other interviews that we had in studio, we had to cancel because some of our crew had some issues, and we're running a skeleton crew today. But like, I'm the perfectionist side.
Yeah, but see, I am you. I am you 100%. I'm you. And I'm learning how actually much that's held me back for the last 4 or 5 years. And so we are, you know, in our team, we're making changes to not only our approach to business, but we're solidifying, you know, like, listen, I've rolled out culture documents 3 times with my team. And, you know, I remember when I rolled out this 2011 culture vision and this and that, and it's just trying to solidify. And finally, I got to the point where I was talking to a team member and I was like, we're going to stop writing this for history and we're going to start writing for people who actually work here. You know, like the idea of using language, you know, with, you know, we're the type of organization that helps individuals with, like, that's BS. Like, we're not writing this for the history books. We're writing this for today. And in 6 months from now, when it's no longer relevant, we'll change it. Like, let's go already. And so Evan's been a huge influence on that, because that guy's manic in terms of the pace that he works, in terms of his expectations and how fast he is, and his willingness and ability to go ahead and launch with garbage, knowing it'll be fixed in a few days, is I'm still trying to figure it out and wrap my mind around it. But what it's taught me is, when you have trust and when you lead with intentions, and I mean, when you're not wasteful, like, you can't put things at risk or waste things. But when you have trust and you lead with intentions and you know you're going to come back around later and sweep things up, it's better to act fast than it is to wait for things to be perfect. And so that I'm doing with Instagram, you know, that I'm comfortable with, you know, I'll tweet you, I'll send you a photo later of this little setup I have with
I want to see it. With the laundry basket, the
with
Barbie
the chip
dolls
bags
on the side.
Exactly. But that's the biggest struggle I've had with my YouTube channel right now, though, is because I have this picture in my head of what I want it to be like. And to do so, I need to have a videographer with me 2 days per week. And I want a documentary vlog-based, like, travel kind of vlogger, videographer. And my team on the client side is like, it's a different shooting style and it's a different pay structure. So I'm trying to find someone who could shoot a certain way, to be honest, for a lower rate than I typically pay my people, who's going to spend 2 days per week for me from sunrise to sunset. And then I'm going to take that content and roll it out. And so while we wait for this person, you know, I just haven't been shooting the stuff I need to shoot for YouTube, which is just a bad excuse, but I just haven't.
Yeah,
so
but I can't wait to see that channel. I think that'll be interesting. Because I mean, I see the videos of you walking in the snow, and you're talking.
There's a lot of that because I'm walking my dog.
Yeah. So you're being efficient with your time. So hey, we gotta wrap it up a little bit, but I did want to talk to you about, as you know, our show is called The Vault, and the best kept secrets live in the vault, which you can't see, but it's right here. I guess I will turn it. Why not? So it's pretty badass. But we want to know, what are the best kept secrets that you have that you can share with the audience? And I know you've already shared a lot of, some great knowledge, but like for people who are getting into, like, say, video production or digital marketing, if you could tell the younger Mark, a little bit of advice, what would that be to get you further faster?
Yeah, I made a comment to someone on Reddit the other day that was along the lines of foundational knowledge is useless, right? Obsession and excitement and action will always take you further than anything else, right? So you can become obsessed with any topic, with any shoot, so video, right? Pick a really specific shooting style, pick a really specific topic, explore something that you just think is super unique and super interesting. And there may not be a path to a paid client in your circle, in your neighborhood, in your city, but the world is a really, really big place. And so being obsessed with something, being excited about something, do you know how many times that, if I'm in a meeting, if I can't get excited about a project, we are not going to be doing that project. Not only because I can't sell it. Like the people will not buy from me if they do not think in some way I'm interested or excited about the opportunity that's in front of me. And when I'm interviewing someone for a job and I am begging, like I have to basically say, please tell me what excites you about this. And if I can't, maybe their nerves are holding them back, but if they can't articulate to me, or I can't feel that buzz of excitement, then I don't want them on my team. And so listen, forget everything else. I think focusing on being excited about something and being obsessed about something enough to become a master at it, that's what you need to do. Are you giving me the wrap? Yeah. We're good?
No, I'm saying I'm excited. I'm into it.
Oh.
I know you probably think I'm just like falling asleep.
I thought you were giving me that like.
No. Keep going. Take your time.
There you go.
I did want to give some of our audience a chance. I'm going to go through some of their questions. I got Doug.
Dougie Fresh.
I see Doug. Yeah, Dougie Fresh. He says, how has picking up the pace helped you?
That's an inside joke, Doug. Come on. You can't be doing this kind of stuff here. Is he still with us? So how has picking up the pace helped me? So I don't think that's a sincere question that Doug asked. So when we were in New York together, he was in Tony Robbins with us. He started telling Grant Cardone on a live stream that Evan Carmichael told him to pick up the pace.
Well, he has another question. He has a follow-up. He wants you to give him some YouTube tips.
Give him some YouTube tips. The standard tips would apply, which is like consistency, producing content that you're proud of, and that you care about, and do it for yourself. So my Instagram videos are a great example of that. The easiest way that I can be vulnerable, and the only type of content that I really like to release are reminders to myself. And so I will say, as a business owner, you need to do this or that. You need to be focused on being simple. You can't overcomplicate things. You need to do this. You need to do this. It's holding you back. That's because I'm dealing with it that day. So
you're telling yourself these inspirational.
Yeah, Evan does it too. Like create content that you wish existed that doesn't. Create stuff for yourself. Others will identify with it. Create your products, your businesses, everything. Create it for you, and then others will come and be attracted to it. The other thing I would say is, and this is the biggest thing I struggle with, right? Is just don't be a perfectionist, right? Don't be a perfectionist. A perfectionist when you're a musician means it takes you 4 years to put out an album, right? Versus, think about the Beach Boys that were putting out 2 albums per year, right? They were recording live in mono because, Brian Wilson was deaf in one ear. You can say that's garbage music or not, but there's a difference between what used to be produced and what's being produced today. And it's just go, right? I think technology, I think us being in our rooms and not talking to people, I think all of those things holds back and we're afraid. And the other thing is just push send.
Push what?
Push send, push release, I'll type up something, or hit upload, right? Don't question whether it's good or not. Finish it and then push send, and that's it. And then forget it. Next. What's next?
I love it. I love it. And as a perfectionist myself, it is always an ongoing battle to just try to, like, we're 14 episodes in and we're still trying to like polish episode 1. So Evan, I know you're watching. It's because we have like a very complicated, awesome graphics that are flying in, and but it's going to get done. And we're actually on to season 2. We're already halfway into season 2 already. And
dude,
we got great thumbnails.
Dude, like, no, hold on a second here. You're laughing about it. You're laughing about it, but you know that that's terrible, right?
It is rough because it's a grind.
Just release
trying to make it perfect. Yeah.
But here's the thing: if you're like me or everyone else who ever's created something, you are most happy with the most recent thing that you've done. But like 3 weeks from now, you look back on it and you're like, oh, it's okay. 6 months from now, you look back on it, you're like, oh, that was a pretty good project. But you've moved on emotionally. Yeah. So put yourself in 6 month state, and you're not gonna, like, you might go like, oh, that was a real miss that we didn't clean up that one thing there that we should have done. But it's done. It's out. It's like we've released stuff, and 2 years later, I've gone back and I have found on a client site that for some reason we sent them a watermarked version of the audio, and I can hear subtly in the background premiumbeat.com, and it's been on their site for 2 years, and I'm like, guys, we better get this cleaned up. But like little things, we produce 140 projects a year, so things sometimes get missed. They shouldn't. QA should be better, certainly. But if you're waiting to hold back your series because you're working on opening graphics, dude, stop it.
I know.
Stop it.
I mean, I'm laughing because it's true. I mean, it's like, you guys know, my team's over here watching me. I mean, we got a lot of hurdles that I put in our own way, and I'm just working on trying to get those out of the way and just release it. So,
okay. So release it anyway. Release it anyway.
Well, one of the great things is that this is live. So when we do all of our remote interviews, they see the raw. So that goes out no matter what. And then we also do a behind the scenes of our in-studio guests, and that they see all the raw, they see all the mistakes. And then we do polish it just a little bit, but I'll take that advice and just try to turn it around faster.
So what you're going to do is you're going to build a graphic that circles something, and it's going to write up and it's going to say, better graphics were going to go here, but we ran out of time. And
I love it. Like football or something.
Just write your creative director notes on there and release it, right? Like that music. Do you remember that rap video where the artist refused to show up? So the director shot the video without him and then just put in blank screens with copy that explained what the artist was going to be doing if things worked out the way that they intended. And that was the music video. It was like, this was going to be a shot of him doing this. And then it's a bunch of people dancing, and this was going to be a shot of this happening.
You have to send me. I want to see that link. You have to send that to me.
Came out like a year and a half ago. I got to find the artist. But
man. So one last question. Where do you live on social media, and where do you live online?
Social media, you can find me Life at Phanta on Instagram. On YouTube, you can subscribe to me. It's just Mark Drager. And online, the best place to find me would be probably Phanta.com or MarkDrager.com.
Great. Well, Mark, we're so grateful to have you on the Vault. Love to hear all your best kept secrets, as well as giving me some heat here too, to make sure I can learn not to have to be so perfect.
Okay. So two things. You're gonna release that video and email me. And then we're going to fix that other thing we were talking about, too, because I got some ideas for you.
Release which video? This one? This episode?
No, you're going to release the one you're holding back on.
Oh, that happens to be the Evan episode, ironically.
Great. Done. Out.
It was due yesterday.
If Evan knew this, he would freak out on you. He would go bananas on you.
Well, at least he's got a picture-in-picture graphic, and it's synchronized with like what he's saying, and it...
Get her done. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, dude. Thank you so much.
Okay, take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
At Phanta Media, we produce the highest quality, most effective videos possible. Because of our unique, business-focused approach to video, our work is dynamic, it's engaging, stunning to look at, and it's really effective. It's relevant for today's market.
People turn to us because they have a business need and they want to work with a company that has a detailed, proven process to address their concerns.
We have the approach to ensure our projects are successful. We have the experience and the creativity to ensure we're delivering the highest quality, most effective videos possible. Simply, we're the company to turn to for corporate video production.